This is the city Tom Cruise rode through, weaving a motorcycle between the palms and Top Gun. In the harbor, an aircraft carrier sits at anchor. Behind it, fighter jets climb and fall with a sound you feel in your chest before you hear it. On the cliffs to the north, people lean into the wind and step off the edge. And for a few minutes, they fly. After dark, the streets fill with jazz, with Latin rhythm, with the shuffle of line dancers. People walk late into the night, in no hurry to be anywhere. 70 miles of Pacific coastline, an average temperature of 70 degrees. Not hot, not cold, one of the mildest climates in the United States. It is the city Americans most want to retire to, and one most of them cannot afford. Spanish California began here in 1769, when soldiers and a Franciscan friar came ashore. Streets that once belonged to pirates, smugglers, and the trade in vice are now a center of nightlife. A hotel where, by legend, a king gave up his crown for love still stands above the water, and still wears that crown in lights. On a hill that no amount of money can buy, the war dead sleep. And through the heart of downtown, a red trolley rings its bell and runs south toward the Mexican border. And in 2026, after the World of Coffee exposition, we walked the city again. This is the record of that walk, in 6 chapters. Before we begin, a word about who is speaking. The America Walk is a documentary channel. Its author has spent 18 years on the road across all 50 states. A travel writer who works under the name Across the Sea. The wide country, the immigrant cities, the histories of settlers and indigenous peoples, the light and the shadow. The stories buried in an old reporter's notebook, told here alongside footage shot in the field, in 4K. If the work earns it, your subscription keeps the walk going. Thank you for being here. Chapter 1. The Hotel That Stepped Around a Tree. A city of dreams under a sun so bright it could drive the damp right out of your soul. That was one traveling reporter's verdict, written in a single line. It may still be the truest sentence ever written about this place. A city of dreams under a brilliant sun. The second largest city in California, San Diego. Every American city carries a nickname. Los Angeles, choked with traffic, is the smog city. Chicago is the windy city. Las Vegas is Sin City. Seattle, the Emerald City. San Diego calls itself America's finest city. It is a place where you can ski the morning and surf the afternoon. Desert, mountain, and ocean, all within an hour's drive. A climate the rest of the country only pretends to have. The first stop is a place called the Torrey Pines Gliderport. But first, the name itself. If you follow golf, you already know it. Torrey Pines hosts a PGA event every year and has staged the US Open twice, and yet it is a public course, owned and run by the city of San Diego. Anyone can play it. In 2008, Tiger Woods won here in a playoff, on a knee that should have kept him off the course. In 2025, the tournament ran under a new name, the Genesis Invitational, backed by Hyundai's luxury brand. The course is famous. But the real subject of Torrey Pines is not the golf. It is a tree. The Torrey Pine grows wild in only 2 places on Earth, a single island and this stretch of San Diego coast. It is a protected species. North of the course lies the Torrey Pines State Natural Reserve and the trail that runs along its cliffs, past wind-bent pines, sandstone bluffs, and the open Pacific, may be the finest coastal walk in the city. If you have the time, take it. Inside the reserve stands the old lodge, built in 1923. Once it warmed travelers at its fireplace and fed them at its table. Today it serves as a visitor center, preserving the natural history of this coast. And at the cliff's edge, beside that magnificent course, is the Gliderport. Ride the wind up from here and the whole map opens beneath you. The ocean, the cliffs, the city skyline, the green of the course laid out like felt. Flying it yourself takes a license, and that takes time and money. But there is a way for visitors. You clip in ahead of a pilot, two of you under a single wing, and go. Getting airborne is almost absurdly simple. No running start. You walk to the edge, lift your feet, and the updraft off the cliff does the rest. You can also do none of that. You can sit at the open-air cafe with a coffee, a beer, a hamburger, and watch other people do it until you lose track of the afternoon. It is not a Hilton, not a Marriott, not a chain. The five-star hotel that shares this cliff is run by a single family, and it sits right against the Gliderport and the golf course. It was built in the California craftsman style, the work of American hands, joint by joint. When it opened in 2002, the lodge at Torrey Pines joined a short list of buildings that define that style. To stay a night inside, it is to sleep inside a piece of joinery. The source of that feeling is in the wood. Beams and columns of redwood, single trees worth a fortune, run through the lobby and the eaves. The joints are pegged in ebony. Wood locks into wood without a nail showing. The furniture is solid oak stickly. A Tiffany lamp sits on the table. All 170 rooms are suites, every one with its own fireplace. Open the doors to the balcony, and the Pacific rolls in beyond the 18th hole. But the detail that stays with you is smaller than all of that. On a wooden deck above the pool, between the restaurant and the open air, a single Torrey pine stands alone. When they built the hotel, they did not cut it down. They did not move it. The hotel stepped around the tree. Ocean, golf, wind, tree, and a five-star roof, all in one frame. There is nowhere else in San Diego like it. One note for the unprepared. Follow the trail down from the hotel toward the water and you reach Black's Beach, the only legal nude beach in the city. Go knowing that and you won't be surprised. Chapter 2. The Restaurant That Faced the Wave. 10 minutes south of Torrey Pines lies La Jolla. In zip code 92037, the average home runs into the millions. A house on the water can ask far more. This is San Diego's Beverly Hills. And yet, the most valuable ground in La Jolla isn't a house. It is a strip of sand at the water's edge. And for 4 generations, it has belonged to one family, the Kellogg's, who run the La Jolla Beach and Tennis Club. Worth saying plainly, they did not fence off all of it. They set aside land large enough for a second hotel and gave it to the public as a park. That is Kellogg Park today. The beach in front of the club is private for members and guests, but the park and the sand before it belongs to everyone. A note on the name. These are not the cereal Kellogg's of Michigan. This family built its fortune in newspapers in Kansas City. A yacht club opened on this spot in 1927, but the Depression and the winter storms finished it. In 1935, the first Kellogg bought the ruins and reopened them. 4 tennis courts and an Olympic-sized pool, open to the sea. Here, you could play tennis outdoors all year to the sound of the surf. They called it a mecca for the game. Charlie Chaplin stayed. Gregory Peck stayed. The Davis Cup was played on these courts. But the courts in the private beach are not the real attraction. The real attraction stands on wooden pilings out over the water, a restaurant called the Marine Room. It opened in May of 1941. At high tide, the sea would rise to the diner's ankles. People rolled up their trousers, let their feet sit in the Pacific, and drank what the founder poured. The family had a name for it then.
Room, and it became the Submarine Room.
The Submarine Room. That first winter, a high tide wave smashed the glass. The ordinary fix is to build higher or pull back from the water. The Kellogg's did neither. They replaced the windows with bulletproof glass the Navy had just developed and chose to meet the ocean head-on. It still happens. At high tide, the waves come at the glass as if to break it. Diners watch the Pacific climb the window and slide back down, inches from their plates. The phrase, high tide dinner, was coined right here. When the tide is right, a window table is worth a small war to reserve. We went back on an evening in May, timed to the high tide. The room had quietly split into two. With every wave against the glass, one group lifted their phones for the shot. The other, further in, kept turning a knife and fork by candlelight. The same wave, and some came to record it, while others simply ate beneath it. We ordered the signature, a bluefin tuna crudo, a second fish dish close in color to salmon, one cocktail, ice cream at the end. Outside the glass, the waves never stopped, and the sun lowered itself toward the horizon. As the meal closed, the manager brought over a single photograph, the sun sinking into the surf, caught through the window. One frame that explained, better than any sentence, what this place is. High tide, full Pacific, and it does not move. 80 years on the same spot. It never dodged the wave. It was never sold to a chain or an investment fund. One family simply refused to let go. Some restaurants survive a single owner. This one outlived 4 generations of them and still faces the sea. Chapter 3. The Land of Holes and 145 Steps Cut by Hand. La Jolla. In Spanish, the word means the jewel, but that is not its first name. The Kumeyaay, who were here first, called this ground Mut Kulakshui, the land of holes. They had found, at the foot of the cliffs, 7 great sea caves. So before the jewel, there was the rougher thing, the land of holes. Most of the 7 caves can only be reached by water. Outfitters along the La Jolla shore run guided kayak tours to them, and the trouble with the tour is the starting line. Not a still lake, the open Pacific, with the surf coming in without pause. A guide shoves you off from behind, and 2 paddlers have to find the same rhythm or the boat goes over. Plenty of people quit halfway. If you mean to finish the cave tour, do your push-ups beforehand and eat a real meal first. This is not a suggestion. Of the 7, exactly 1 can be reached on foot from dry land, the Sunny Jim Cave. In 1902, a German-born painter and mining engineer named Gustav Schultz lived on this cliff. Thinking about his old age, he had an idea that was either brilliant or insane. If I bore a tunnel from my house down to that cave, won't people pay to walk through it? He hired 2 Chinese laborers. With nothing but picks and shovels, in a single year, they cut the tunnel and laid 145 wooden steps. The reckless plan worked. He charged admission, the word spread, and it became the first attraction in La Jolla. A perfect retirement income, dug by hand. Schultz's house is now a gift shop called the Cave Store, the oldest shop in La Jolla. As of 2026, you pay $13 and start down the narrow stairs at the back. It is dark and damp, and a cool wind comes up to meet you. The steps are gentle but wet and slick, so you keep a hand on the rail. Past the halfway point, the water begins to drip, and the sound of the sea grows louder with every step. At the bottom, the ocean appears through the mouth of the cave, framed like a painting. The cave's other name is Sunny Jim. From the right angle, the opening resembles the profile of Sunny Jim, a cereal mascot the British once loved. The man who pointed out the likeness and gave it the name was L. Frank Baum, the author of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. In the 1930s, during Prohibition, this tunnel earned a darker reputation. Local stories say it was used to move Chinese migrants and liquor alike, Canadian and Scotch whiskey, the output of illegal stills. Ask the staff, and they'll tell you it's treated less as rumor than as fact. Walk down once, and you understand why. Invisible from the street, reachable from the sea, connected at the top to a shop. On a dark night, with the police elsewhere, there were few better doors for moving contraband. 120 years ago, one man's retirement plan. There is no elevator and no escalator. You go down on your own legs and you come back up on them. One hand on a wall still rough from the pick that cut it. Chapter 4. The Children's Pool the Wild Took Back. In 1926, Time magazine ran a cover. The headline called her the most beloved woman in Southern California. Her name was Ellen Browning Scripps. She was a teacher, a journalist, and one of the people who built the Scripps newspaper empire from the ground up. Why the sudden history lesson? Because she had no children, and she gave everything to La Jolla. Her house became the Museum of Contemporary Art. The prime ground above La Jolla Cove became a park of lawn and palm trees that still carries her name. Hospitals, schools, a library, a women's club, the Ocean Research Institute at the university. The Scripps name is carved into plaques all over this town. Even the Kellogg family we just met is tied to hers, by marriage. The second generation Kellogg was named William Scripps Kellogg. So in the end, the history of La Jolla rests on two families and what they chose to give away. And the thing Scripps built for the children is the subject of this chapter. 10 minutes south of the Sunny Jim Cave, at the far end of Scripps Park, there is a small concrete cove, the children's pool. In 1931, Scripps wanted children to have a place where the dangerous surf could not reach them. At the point where the current ran hardest, she had a thick concrete breakwater built. Behind it, a calm beach of sand appeared. 90 years have passed. The concrete and stone have been chewed rough by the waves. The breakwater still stands where she set it. Then, in the 1990s, something no one planned for began. Harbour seals started hauling out onto the sand behind the wall. They gave birth there. They nursed. They taught their pups to swim in the one stretch of water with no surf and no predators. Word got out, among the seals, that this was a perfect, safe nursery. Each breeding season, more of them came. When the children's pool became the seals' delivery room, the fight began. People who wanted to swim and people who wanted to protect the seals dug in. The lawsuits ran for years. There were proposals to split the beach in two. In 2014, the City Council and the courts decided. Closed to people during breeding season, December 15th to May 15th. What it became instead is a place where you can stand within feet of a wild seal nursing her pup. A free aquarium, closer than any paid one. And the internet did the rest. The seals brought the world to a small town's doorstep, in a way Ellen Browning Scripps could never have imagined. Chapter 5. Where does our freedom come from? Most people who come to La Jolla eat by the water, see a cave, watch the sea lions, and leave. Don't leave without climbing to the highest point in La Jolla, Mount Soledad, 820 feet. Most people come up for the view, a clean 360-degree sweep of the coast. It is one of the best in the city. But that is not why it matters. In 1952, with the Korean War at its height, a veterans group in La Jolla set out to build a memorial here for the men who fought in Korea. In 1954, the year after the armistice, a 40-foot cross went up. The park opened to honor not only the Korean War dead, but the veterans of both world wars beside them. Today, across 12 curved walls, there are more than 7,000 plaques. They are black granite. Each carries a face, a name, a decoration, a place where the bearer fought, cut into the stone. And roughly 70% of the people on these walls are still living. This is not a place only for the dead. A plaque for a president who went to war sits beside a plaque for an ordinary enlisted man. Same stone, same size, same wall. Because here, rank does not decide the size of a life. Service does. Stand at the foot of the cross with the whole coast laid out below. The beaches, the cove, the harbor, the country running north and south. And the question the climb was meant to raise finally arrives. The view is free. The freedom behind it was not. Chapter 6. A natural prescription for insomnia. 20 minutes south of La Jolla by car. Pacific Beach. Locals shorten it to PB. The neighboring ocean beach is OB, the way San Diegans clip Tijuana across the border down to TJ. If La Jolla is the cut and polished jewel, PB is the raw beach. Coarse sand, nothing dressed up, no formality at all. Not a tourist set piece, but a place where local time runs to the rhythm of the surf. People walk the streets in dripping wetsuits, boards propped against a wall while they tear into a taco or a slice on the sidewalk, then run straight back into the water. PB is the clearest showcase of San Diego's loose, practical way of living. The main drag, Garnet Avenue, is packed wall to wall with cafes and bars. Half of La Jolla's prices and you leave full. Not fine dining, a $5 fish taco and a cold local beer. With the university close by, it has the easy feel of a college town. Cheap food, late nights, kids with empty pockets talking about surfing, music and love until the bars close. Follow the sound of the waves to the water and PB's great landmark appears. Crystal Pier, a 1,000-foot wooden pier finished in 1927. A row of small white cottages stands out along it. You can drive your car right up to the door. While the sun is up, anyone can walk the pier. After dark, it belongs to the guests alone. Lie down in one of these cottages, and the first thing you notice is not the room and not the view. It is the vibration. Every time a wave strikes the wooden pilings, the entire 1,000-foot structure becomes a single resonating chamber. The faint tremor travels up through the floor, into the bed, along your spine, through your whole body. You feel the pulse of the Pacific in a way you never can from solid ground. If the children's pool was a cradle for newborn life, the Crystal Pier cottage is a cradle for worn-out adults, rocked by the ocean itself. Among people who can't sleep, it has a reputation. The place where chronic insomniacs drop off like lambs, almost against their will. The steady waves and the low hum of the pilings reach back to something older than memory. The rocking and heartbeat we knew before we had words. One guest put it this way: "It feels like the Pacific is breathing for me." Someone pays for that. The room rate runs high, but part of it goes to holding a century-old wooden pier above the sea. Pilings that absorb the full force of every wave. Decking strong enough to drive a car across. Specialized lumber that meets the environmental code. Replacing it costs anywhere from a few $100s to $1 million. Finish repairs at one end and corrosion starts at the other. The maintenance is a relay with no finish line. So the nightly rate is, in truth, a kind of preservation fund. What it costs to buy the pier its next 100 years. When the sun begins to lower past the horizon, every clock in PB stops at once. The ones who were fishing, the ones running the shoreline, the loud surfers, they all drift toward the end of the pier. A place with no need to hurry, no need to prove anything. A place of neighbors who don't pretend to be more than they are.
Epilogue. In this part, we walked 3 towns along the San Diego coast. At Torrey Pines, a hotel that stepped around a protected pine. At La Jolla, a restaurant that takes the wave head-on. A sea cave reached by 145 steps cut with pick and shovel. And a breakwater that gave its ground to the wild. At Pacific Beach, we lay down inside a cradle made of century-old pilings, rocked by the Pacific. If La Jolla is a place that yielded to nature, Crystal Pier is a place where nature and human hands become one thing. The sea at San Diego. Perhaps not a thing to watch from the shore,
but a thing to feel through the whole body. Part 2 walks into the city's past. A hotel that opened in 1888, a street that belonged to pirates, the underground rooms that sold liquor through prohibition, and the story waiting behind a small door that an insider opened for us. We hope you'll come along. Thank you.